All right. Well, let's talk about like your method. I mean, we have been, but your website and your courses, and there's the Improvisers Club and all that stuff.
The goal of everything on my website, again, I specialize in developing freedom on the kid. So the ability to improvise, be creative with vocabulary. Every course is a subset of vocabulary, right? So the one I'm working on right now is triplet linear flow grooves. Right? This is really, there's a lot of vocabulary that's specific to the site that you start to get to know after a while. Basically, it's the ability to go boom, that type of groove, but like a lot of control, a lot of variation possible. But other ones will be like the drum and bass course. So it's like, okay, you start with the drum and bass 101 groove. But again, the point is to be able to develop the ability to improvise within that. So that's like a, 12-ish lesson course, 2 chapters. And by the end of it, like for chapter 1 is basically the ability to shift notes, shift melodic notes in a drum and bass-esque style and make infinite melodies just with the grooves, right? So doom cat doom doom cat cat doom cat doom 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 cat doom cat doom cat cat doom. So there's a specific approach, step by step, to being able to just kind of shift those notes around and essentially improvise within those tight constraints, like we've said. Chapter 2 is embellishments. So now you've got the ability to improvise the melody of the groove, the kicks and backbeats. Now let's look at all of the stuff, of the variations we can pile on top of that, which sort of has the effect of like exponentially multiplying what is the perceived like variation. And by the end of the course, you're still, and this is again the mantra, you're thinking pretty simple thoughts, because first you got good at this specific technique for creating the melodies, which now is automatic. And then you throw in 5 or 6 variations to the patterns that each have a melodic variation built into it, but you're just thinking the original melodic variation. So you're thinking simple thoughts, but you're adding these variations so that the listener receives something that seems really crazy varied and complex. So anyways, that's sort of a really typical form of one of my courses. And I have begun to think of my courses, I'm very offline, right? So I don't really know what other educators are up to out there, to be honest. But I know from my appearances in other places where I will sometimes do a guest series of lessons or something, that sort of in line with the sort of stereotype of the day, like everyone's attention spans are really, really short. We got to keep all the lessons to 3 minutes. It has to be, fit in an Instagram reel or something. Yeah. I have really resisted that very comfortably, and I treat my lessons a lot more like a university course, to be honest. So like I just posted or I just filmed, a few lessons that were 30 minutes, 40-minute lessons. And it's pretty demanding of students, but that's the environment I want to create. I want people to come to this not for entertainment. I want them to come for a serious educational experience, like a course that you would take in college. And I went to Berklee College of Music, so I know what a rigorous course is meant to do. I just got a degree in psychology again, recently. And that was, I feel like in some way that I probably haven't recognized till right now, really influential on my willingness to lean into the rigor that I'm trying to create on the site. Because to me, like, I don't need fun videos. The fun is getting good at the drums. The fun is having freedom and playing what's in my head. So since I've leaned into that, you might think that people would have been like, this is, it's like, who has time to watch these lessons? And like this, I'm asking too much and la-da-da. But I've had the exact opposite. I've had people doubling down on the seriousness and being like, thank God there's like a really deep dive on these subjects. And I love that. Because
you're more invested, it's longer. You've put the time in. It's more, there's nothing wrong with the short ones. I mean, I've seen multiple of the different sites and they're little, hey, here's the groove, here's how you play it. But it sounds like and I haven't dug into your particular courses, but it's like when something's 45 or 50 minutes long, you definitely have more, there's more room to explain
Yeah.
You're more sitting down. Your focus is, yes, people have short attention spans. We all know that. I mean, I feel like we're similar in age, and you always hear that kind of thing about our generation. But like, that's not always the case. If you're into something, you can spend an hour or 2 hours, whatever, working on it.
100%. And I think and again, like everyone's obviously doing things differently, and it's perfectly fine. Like some students want some smaller takeaways. Some students want to do a super deep dive. Some students want to dive deeper and, go further in stuff than I provide too. I mean, when you commit to college, to like music university, you're essentially saying like, wow, I'm like going deep dive. But in general, I'm just finding that if I want to, I mean, this is well, I'll just say this. The site is, the way that I teach is just kind of a reflection of who I am, how I think, and what I'm excited about with the drums. I like thinking hard about these things, thinking about a whole system that underpins it, the philosophy underneath it, how to convey this in some certain way. And like is always the case with a band, an educational thing, whatever, a blog, you find people who are like you, so it's like the people who are attracted to what I'm doing, they're in it. And it's like, it's not going to be a bad fit for people, because if it was the people for whom it's a bad fit, they just don't sign up, or they sign up for a free month and then they bail or something. Sure. And that's fine. So it turns into a community of people who are like studying pretty darn hard on the stuff. And it's also, I was thinking about this the other day, is like your typical college course is 14 weeks or so, semester. Most of my classes are about 12 courses long, or 12 lessons long. And again, I'm kind of asking you to do a lot of practice between, I try to plan the lessons so that it's a week of practicing required to like get control over the content. So it's not a lot of quick payoff in a sense, which some people would say like, that's a terrible business model. And I'm like, I know, but I think it's sustainable because it's exciting for me.
You need that. I mean, growing up taking drum lessons, it was week after week after week after week after week after month.
An hour long or half hour lesson, Yeah.
But if people don't like that, there's plenty of other different types of teachers. Because growing up, I had, this teacher, I didn't really like that guy. Okay, this teacher, I love this guy. Okay, let me try someone else. Let me learn from this. Not every teacher matches every single person.
And you don't always need, like, I personally, I don't like really long courses. Ironically.
Ironic, yeah.
I'm the type of learner that like, I want to be shown like some small idea, and it has to be the right idea. There's some amount of luck involved here. But I took a lesson a couple months ago, and the teacher mentioned something like in passing that wasn't even the focus of the lesson. And that ended up being like the seed for months of practice that I'm still doing. I was like, oh, that. And again, it's exactly how my website works. Again, it's the same. It's just me in website form. It's like, oh, I'm going to create a giant system out of this. I'm going to create all the vocab. I'm going to be able to play all the melodies and have control over this. And I'm still working on it and still finding like new ways to push the boundaries. So I'm basically like doing the course I would make, but in my own practice. But it's not, it's just this like moment. I mean, it was literally 20 seconds of a lesson where something, and at the moment, I didn't even process that it was interesting. It was actually when I went home, I was like, what was that lick he was playing? And I started trying to figure it out, and I was like, oh, this has crazy potential. So yeah, I mean, to your point, everyone needs something different, learns differently, and needs different things at different times in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.